I remember the exact moment my lungs forgot how to work. It was a Friday afternoon in late spring, the kind of Texas heat that presses against your skin like a fevered hand. I was 29, hair twisted up with a pencil, knuckles white on the wheel of my dusty Jeep as I crested the final hill. The lakehouse came into view, my lakehouse, nestled in a cove where the Colorado River widens into something that feels like forgiveness. The A-frame I'd bought 5 years ago with every overtime hour and skipped vacation. The one with warped pine floors that creaked like an old friend and a kitchen so small you had to dance sideways to open the fridge. I'd refinished the dock myself, cedar planks under my bare knees until splinters bloomed like constellations in my palms. I'd hunted estate sales for the perfect velvet armchair the color of thunderclouds. I'd planted wildflowers along the stone path, bluebonnets that burst open like laughter, Indian paintbrush bleeding red, black-eyed Susans winking gold, so that every walk to the water felt like stepping inside a dream I'd painted with my own hands. 3 days. No clients. No closings. Just the hush of water kissing pilings, and the promise of whiskey neat on the dock at sunset. I'd earned this. 6 months of 17-hour days sealing the Carver portfolio. Downtown condos, riverfront lots, a commission that finally let me exhale. The lake house was my exhale. The front door hung open. Not unlocked. Open. Like someone had kicked it wide and walked away whistling. I stepped over the threshold, and the world tilted sideways. Dust floated in the air like ash after a fire. Sunlight sliced through the haze, illuminating a battlefield. My living room, my living room, was a corpse. The thundercloud armchair? Gutted, stuffing spilling like entrails. The vintage Lake Prince I'd framed in driftwood I'd scavenged from the shore? Glass shattered, frames splintered. The pine floors I'd sanded by hand until my shoulders screamed, gouged and scarred and buried under drywall snowdrifts. I moved on instinct, sneakers crunching over debris. The kitchen hit like a fist to the sternum. My farmhouse sink, the one I'd driven to Waco for, cradling it in my lap the whole way home like a newborn, was gone. In its place, a concrete mixer, still wet, humming with malevolent life. The marble island I'd saved 3 years to afford lay in 3 jagged pieces. Veins of gray cracked open like lightning frozen mid-strike. The custom cabinets I'd designed with a carpenter in Fredericksburg, shaker style, soft close hinges, the exact shade of sea glass after a storm, were stacked in a dumpster outside the window, doors hanging off like broken wings. I stood in the middle of the ruin, phone trembling in my hand, and felt something inside me calcify into stone. Then footsteps. Light. Confident. Familiar. Elara, darling, you're early. Mom's voice floated in before she did, all coral lipstick and white linen pants, silver hair twisted into its signature knot that never had a strand out of place. Dad trailed behind, fishing hat clutched in both hands, eyes fixed on the floorboards like they might open and swallow him whole. What did you do? My voice came out small, a child's whisper in a cathedral of wreckage. Mom's smile didn't waver, bright as polished glass. Don't fuss about the mess, sweetheart. The crew starts phase 2 Monday. It'll be gorgeous. Open concept, quartz waterfall island, French doors spilling onto a new wraparound deck with built-in seating and a fire pit. Asterisk, who authorized this? Asterisk, the words cracked like a whip. She blinked, genuinely confused, as if I'd asked why the sky was blue. We did, honey. You and Ronan need the space. His agency's opening a satellite office out here, and this place is perfect. You're never here anyway. Ronan, my brother. 32. Golden. The son who could do no wrong, who'd been handed every opportunity on a silver platter. While I clawed my way up from nothing. Ronan's moving in? The words tasted like rust and bile. Mom nodded, gentle as a guillotine sliding home. He and Lila are trying for a baby. You know how she loves the water. And the dock needs reinforcing for a boat slip. Ronan's already picked out a pontoon. I laughed, sharp, involuntary, the sound of bones snapping. This is my house. I bought it. I pay the mortgage. I planted every flower on that path with my own hands. I know every creak in these floors, every leak in the roof. I patched myself. This is mine. Dad shifted, clearing his throat like it was full of gravel. We helped with the down payment. 20 grand. A gift. I've paid every dime since. Every late night, every skipped dinner, every weekend I spent sanding and staining and swearing at plumbing. This is mine. Mom's eyes narrowed, just a flicker, like a snake tasting the air. Elara, don't be dramatic. We're making it functional for family. You're always working. Ronan and Lila will actually live here. Take care of it properly. The words landed like a slap. Take care of it properly. As if my blood and sweat and sleepless nights were just a placeholder until the real family arrived. Get out. The words dropped into the dust like stones into still water, sending ripples that would drown us all. Dad touched her elbow, a silent plea. She opened her mouth. Protests, platitudes, the same tired script, but he guided her out. Their SUV kicked up a plume of dust that hung in the air like smoke from a burning bridge, settling over the wreckage like a shroud. I stood alone in the ruin of my sanctuary. Foam clutched so tight the screen cracked under my thumb. I called Sage. My best friend since sophomore year at UT. The one who'd held my hair when I puked tequila in a dorm hallway, and told me I was enough when the world screamed otherwise. They gutted it, Sage. They demolished my house to give it to Ronan. Silence stretched, thick as the dust in the air. Then, that's not a renovation. That's grand theft with a sledgehammer and a side of entitlement. I spent the next hour documenting like a war photographer. Photos, videos, close-ups of serial numbers on the new appliances still wrapped in plastic. The high-end fridge that cost more than my first car. I drove to the only inn in town. A creaky Victorian with lace curtains and a porch swing that groaned like it carried ghosts. Mrs. Delgado handed me a key with flour on her fingers from baking scones. Thought you had the whole weekend at your place, she said, eyes soft with concern. Family emergency, I lied, voice flat. That night I sat cross-legged on a quilt that smelled like lavender and someone else's childhood, laptop glowing like a cold moon. I opened every file I had. Date, Elara Quinn. Sole owner. Mortgage statements, Elara Quinn. Insurance policy, Elara Quinn. Property tax receipts, Elara Quinn. Handwritten notes from the carpenter in Fredericksburg about the sea glass paint. Photos of the dock mid-refinish, my knees bloody from splinters. A receipt for the Thundercloud armchair, marked final sale in red ink. No cosigners. No liens. No one else. I emailed Marcus, my attorney, a man who'd once closed a deal for me at 2 a.m. over tacos and tequila. Asterisk emergency. They destroyed my house. Need cease and desist, restraining order, demand letter. Everything, asterisk. I was back at the house by dawn, cataloging like a coroner performing an autopsy on my own life. The built-in bookshelves I'd commissioned from a retired boatwright who smelled like pipe smoke and salt. Gone, reduced to kindling. The clawfoot tub I'd restored with baking soda and elbow grease until my fingernails split. Cracked in half, porcelain teeth scattered across the bathroom floor. The light fixtures I'd wired myself, Edison bulbs in brass cages that cast golden pools at night, smashed, filaments glowing faintly like dying stars. I was kneeling in the debris, photographing a shard of marble with a vein that looked like a lightning bolt, when tires crunched on gravel. Ronan's white Range Rover gleamed like a lie. He climbed out in linen and loafers, Lila behind him in oversized sunglasses, and a sundress that cost more than my monthly mortgage. Little sis. He spread his arms like he was about to hug the horizon. Mom said you were spiraling. Wait till you see the renderings. Chef's kitchen with a 48-inch range, wine fridge, bunk room for the kids, a mudroom with built-in cubbies. This is my house. My voice was steel-wrapped in velvet. He faltered, smile flickering. Technically, Mom and Dad. There is no technically. I bought it. I own it. I pay for it. Get out. Lila stepped forward, voice syrupy with condescension. Elara, change is scary, but this is for family. The layout was so closed off, the kitchen was claustrophobic, the dock's too small for anything but a kayak. I dialed 911. The operator's calm voice cut through the haze. They left, Ronan muttering about ingratitude, Lila's heels clicking like gunfire on the gravel. I met Sage at the cafe in town. The one with mismatched chairs and a barista who remembered your order and your heartbreak. She hugged me so hard my ribs creaked, her curls tickling my cheek. You look like hell, she said, which was how I knew she loved me. I feel like hell. I told her everything. The dust, the lies, the way Mom said functional like I was a tenant in my own life. Sage listened without interrupting, stirring her coffee into a whirlpool. What did Marcus say? Cease and desist letters went out. Restraining order Monday. He's demanding they pay for restoration and damages for emotional distress, loss of use, all of it. Sage's eyes narrowed. They'll fight it. They always do. They can try. The letters landed like grenades. Certified mail. Email. Hand-delivered to the contractor's office with a bow on top. The family group chat detonated into shrapnel. Mom. I'm devastated you'd threaten us with lawyers after everything we've done for you. Dad. We just wanted to help the family. Ronan. You're jealous because I'm building something real and you're too busy chasing commissions to have a life. Aunt Clara. Your parents sacrificed everything for you kids. Cousin Mark. Ungrateful doesn't begin to cover it. I muted them all. The silence was deafening. Clara from Ridgewood Builders called me herself, voice shaking with something like guilt. Your parents showed us a deed in their name. A power of attorney giving them full authority. After your letter, we checked the county records. It was fraudulent. They lied. They forged documents, Elara. If we'd known, we never would have touched the place. I forwarded the call recording to Marcus. My hands didn't shake. They were carved from granite now. The contractor's crew showed up anyway. Habit, momentum, the inertia of entitlement. I met them on the porch with the restraining order in hand, the paper crisp as a blade. No one touches this house again. Not a nail. Not a screw. Not a thought. They left, tools clanking like chains. I hired restorers. Paid from savings I'd earmarked for a condo in Austin, for a future I'd imagined with someone who hadn't materialized yet. The first estimate came in, $92,000. The second, $94,000. The third, $91,500 with a note that custom sea glass cabinets would take 8 weeks to replicate. I sat on the dock at sunset, whiskey burning a path to my stomach, and watched the water turn blood orange and then bruise purple. The wildflowers I'd planted swayed in the breeze, oblivious to the war being waged above their roots. The twist, the one that still claws at my throat in the dark, came 6 weeks later. Lila texted. Coffee. Halfway between cities. Please, asterisk. I almost deleted it. Curiosity is a cruel mistress, and I was done with cruel. But something in the please, small, cracked human, made me say yes. She looked like a watercolor left in the rain. Hair limp, eyes red-rimmed, sundress swapped for jeans and a hoodie that swallowed her whole. We sat in a diner that smelled like bacon grease and broken dreams. I'm leaving Ronan, she said before I'd even ordered. And I need to tell you what I found. She slid a manila folder across the table, the kind with the little metal clasp that always pinches your fingers. Inside, bank statements. A home equity loan on my parents' house, $140,000. Taken out 2 years ago, before I'd even closed the Carver deal. Emails from Mom to Ronan. Elara will sign it over. She always caves. She's too soft. A life insurance policy. My name as beneficiary. $500,000 payout. Taken out 3 weeks after I discovered the demolition. The premium paid with the same account that held the renovation funds. They weren't just stealing your house, Lila whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. They were betting you wouldn't live to fight them. The payout would have covered the renovation, the legal fees, everything. You were collateral. I stared at the documents until the words blurred into static. My own mother had priced my pulse. My father had co-signed the policy. Ronan had known. I didn't cry. I couldn't. The tears had calcified somewhere between the marble shards and the forged deed. I drove to the lakehouse at midnight. Sat on the dock until the stars burned out and the water turned the color of old pewter. I thought about drowning, not metaphorically but literally. The weight of the whiskey bottle in my hand, the cold shock of the lake, the way the wildflowers would keep blooming whether I was here or not. But I didn't. Because they didn't get to win. Not like that. The restoration took 4 months. Every nail, every brushstroke, every sea glass cabinet door paid for by the brother who'd tried to erase me. The contractors worked in silence, as if they could feel the ghosts in the walls. I was there every weekend, sanding, staining, swearing at plumbing that fought back. I replanted the wildflowers that had been trampled. I rewired the light fixtures myself, fingers bleeding around the Edison bulbs until they glowed like small suns. The trial was a circus of tears and tailored suits. Mom wept on the stand, mascara streaking like war paint. I just wanted my children to have a home. Dad contradicted himself about the power of attorney, voice cracking when Marcus showed the county records. Ronan admitted, under oath, that they'd promised him the house as soon as Elara came to her senses. He said it like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum over a toy. Clara testified, showed the falsified deed, the forged power of attorney, the emails where Mom referred to me as the obstacle. The jury took 3 hours. Verdict: $92,000 restoration, $45,000 legal fees, $100,000 damages for emotional distress and loss of use, permanent injunction barring my parents or Ronan from ever setting foot on the property, a signed confession, *, we acted without authorization *, filed with the county in perpetuity. I won, but the house still smelled like sawdust and lies. Every creak in the floorboards sounded like a lie. Every wildflower felt like a taunt. I sold it in February. Listed it myself. Photos I took at golden hour, wildflowers in full riot. The dock gleaming like it had never known splinters. It sold in 3 days to a couple from Seattle who wanted to raise their daughter, where the water was wide and the nights were quiet. They sent me a card after closing. Thank you for loving this house so we could find it. I kept the card. I burned the closing documents. I kept one thing. The driftwood frame from the first lake print I ever hung. The glass was cracked in a spiderweb that caught the light like frost, but the image survived, a sunrise over the cove. The water so still it looked like glass. I'm 30 now. Senior broker. Corner office downtown with a view of the Capitol Dome. I run the river trail at dawn. Earbuds in, city waking up around me like a heartbeat. My new loft has floor-to-ceiling windows and a balcony where I drink coffee and watch thunderstorms roll in. Thanksgiving? I host. Sage brings the pie, pecan extra bourbon. Mrs. Delgado brings the gossip and a tin of scones. My team comes. Junior brokers who call me boss and mean it with respect. We play cards until 2 a.m. No one measures love in square footage. No one prices anyone's pulse. Sometimes I dream of the house. I wake up tasting dust and cedar, heart racing like I'm still standing in the wreckage, barefoot on splinters. But then I remember. The house wasn't the sanctuary. I was. And I finally learned how to lock the door. If someone tried to take what's yours, your home, your name, your life, what would you do? Would you fight until your hands bled and your heart calcified? Or walk away and build something they can't touch, can't price, can't steal? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.